Let's take a look at a walkthrough for something called covered interest rate arbitrage, also known as CIA. So with the idea of covered interest rate arbitrage, we're trying to exploit interest rate differentials, different interest rates between two countries. If the two interest rates are different and the currency stays the same during our investment horizon, then we can take advantage of the spread between the lower interest rate country and the higher interest rate country. We can borrow where interest rates are cheap and then go and invest them in a country where interest rates are higher. And again, if currency values don't change, because we'll have to exchange currency to go and do this process, once we are done with our investment, we can take our investment returns at that higher interest rate and then convert them back into our home currency and be done with this whole business. And what we end up with is, well, we pay the cost of interest rates for borrowing this money, but that's fine, they were lower, and we ended up with a return because we invested them in a place where interest rates are higher. And that spread leads to a profit. But again, that assumes that the currency values don't change. And in reality, currency values change quite a bit. So one thing we can do is employ a forward contract, a forward or a futures contract, on the currency pair that we're using. A forward contract on a currency pair, one of them being a lower interest rate one and one being a higher interest rate one. So as an example, let's start out assuming that we have $5.1 million in arbitrage capital. The spot rate, the exchange rate today, 6.1714 Danish kroner per USD. This is the rate that we would translate our dollars to today. And then what we also need is the forward rate to lock in the price at which we're going to convert those Danish kroner back to USD when we're all done with this business. That forward rate is 6.1971 Danish kroner. And so you can see the kroner is trading at a forward discount. The US dollar is stronger against the Danish kroner, buys more of it in the forward market than it is in today's spot market. The next thing we need are interest rates. It's 2.96 for the US and 5.97% for the kroner. These figures are both already annualized. Notice that the spread between the higher rate and the lower rate is 3.01%. And if the exchange rate didn't change, this is the profit, the percentage profit on our original investment that we would receive. But since they do change, we're going to use a forward contract to hedge away that risk. Our forward discount on the Danish kroner is a percentage difference between the spot rate right now and the forward rate that we see priced above. Notice that we look at the spot rate minus the forward divided by the forward here because we're looking at the forward discount or premium on the Danish kroner. That is because we're using a currency in which we care about what's on the numerator here. The Danish kroner is on the numerator, and so that's why we're using spot minus forward divided by forward and not the other way around. So this is our spot, these two are the forward, and then one final thing is that forward rates are always for a specific period of time. It's a 6-month forward or it's a 1-year forward. So let's suppose that right now we're looking at a forward contract for 6 months from now. This is going to be our investment horizon, we're going to hold this interest rate spread for 6 months, and then we're also going to correspondingly buy a forward contract that is 6 months in maturity. Actually, let's make that a 3-month forward contract, making this a quarterly or 3-month investment horizon strategy. If it's 3 months, that's 90 days. And so if this is a forward discount or premium on the Danish kroner, we typically express such things in annualized terms. So a 90-day forward contract annualized needs to take this multiplication factor into play, giving us on an annualized basis a forward discount on the kroner of 1.659%. And so the reason why this matters, why we're doing it here, is that if this is the discount on the kroner for a forward contract, and this is the spread that we're going to receive on the underlying investment of investing in Denmark, then the difference between the two is the percentage profit that we can expect to receive on this covered interest rate arbitrage strategy. We earn this much on our investment, and then we give a little bit back because of the forward rate discount. Still, we end up with a 1.351% profit on an annualized basis. To illustrate this concept a little better and on a dollar basis, let's walk through the process. We start with our $5.1 million investment, but then we convert it into kroner, doing so at today's exchange rate, the spot exchange rate. So since the spot is 6.1714 kroner to the US dollar, that translates into 31,474,000 kroner. We take this money and immediately invest it in Denmark at that higher interest rate. If we earn 5.97% annually investing in Denmark, then on a 90-day basis, we take that number and divide by 4. We're earning 1.49% on a 90-day basis. And that gives us, in kroner terms, a result that at the end of the 90 days, we go from 31.474 to 31.943 million kroner. And the key element of covered interest rate arbitrage is that when we converted this at spot today, at the same time, we bought a forward contract, and that forward contract allows us to sell Danish kroner, this amount, in exchange for dollars at this pre-specified exchange rate. That pre-specified exchange rate is the forward contract price, or forward rate. And as seen above, that forward rate is 6.1971 Danish kroner to USD. So, going from kroner to USD, we know that it's a big number going into a smaller number, and so we divide to get this kroner equivalent in terms of what it's worth in US dollars. Net result, we end up with 5.15 million US dollars. Meanwhile, we had borrowed this money. We had borrowed $5.1 million in arbitrage capital, and the interest rate was the interest rate you see here, the 2.96. 2.96 is an annualized number, and so on a 90-day basis, that ends up to being a little less than 1%, 0.7%, about. Meaning that we have to pay back principal plus interest, the 5.1 million principal plus interest of about $37,740. And the net result, the profit of this strategy, once it's said and done, is the revenue that we received when taking our money and investing it in Denmark, minus the amount of money that we have to pay back, as well as the interest accrued from that, giving us a net result of $16,911 in profit. That doesn't sound like a lot, but consider it doesn't sound like a lot relative to the size of our investment, the $5.1 million. But consider that we didn't actually put up any of our own money. So on a percentage return basis on our own capital, this is a fabulously high return on a percentage return basis. I mean, it's literally undefined, but you can see that if we have access to cheap sources of financing, arbitrage strategies can be highly beneficial. And so this is a type of an activity that, say, a big bank who does have access to that type of financing would be actively trading in.